Hey Scale Nation, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you another... What is this? Is this a gigantic wall of Tekin? It is. I want to preface this video by saying that at no part or no second or anything of this video is in any point sponsored or I guess he would say even endorsed by Tekin. Everything you see on this bench was bought and paid for and ordered because myself and Jason Antler, the other member, one of the other members of the race division, are refitting all of our race cars for this year. So this has been a long time coming. We've been using some old technology, but now it's time to outfit everything, and we waited a long time for this stuff to come out. For anybody knows from watching for years and years and years, Tekin is kind of my jam. That's kind of what I do when it comes to racing. It's been my go-to for a very long time. Very trusted stuff, and I absolutely am in love with the product. So it came time back in the old days with my Gen 1s, into the Gen 2, into the Gen 3, and now we're into the Spec R systems, which is pretty amazing. I'm absolutely in love with the stats and stuff like that. Now, a couple things that to note about this new Spec R system is that at the time of filming this video, Tekin has made the claim that this is the lowest internal resistance that you can get. And then if you pair it with something like their new RS Pro Black Edition, which is the lowest internal resistance speed controller, this setup right here will be the lowest internal resistance that you can get for your RC car. Obviously, battery is up for subject. You have to have a good battery for that too. The idea behind the internal resistance being such a big deal is because, well, in the majority of the situations that these cars are going to be built, or these motors, these are going to be spec racing, which means that you're always looking for that extra tenth of a second, and sometimes you need to find it through your technology. So internal resistance can really make the difference of hundredths and tenths of a second, which, you know, after 6 or 7 minutes of racing can really mean your race or not. So that's really what we come down to. Now, again, technology is always moving forward, which is amazing. So here we've got a couple lines of the old motors, the old can versus the Gen 2 versus the Gen 3, and now the Spec R. So box is fairly simple. Open it up. You've got a motor. There was a little bit of a sticky on here that stuck it into the box, but I took it off because I wanted to oogle it for a little bit. The rest of the box, when you look in here, you do get some washers for spacing, because you might have to space this out. And of course, you get a nice Tekin sensor cable, and this is all branded, feels really well. Sensor cables, I will tell you guys, one of the most important things to get a good sensor cable. I actually had some struggles this year with a motor. I thought I blew up a motor, ESC gearing, couldn't figure out what it was. Turns out it was just a sensor cable the entire time. I swapped it out and everything worked absolutely perfect. So what is this little tag on here? That's a question that keeps getting asked. Reduced pinion size from 10% to 15% from current setup. That's right, guys. You're going from something like this. This would be a Gen 3 17.5 motor. These stickers, guys, are... I raced in the Protoform Canadian On-Road Nationals, and they had to tech every motor. So dabs of what was actually nail polish and stickers on your motor to make sure that they tell you that they've passed tech. But the motors appear to be the same, but all of the black magic that's happened on the inside of this motor here has basically made it so that you need to retune your gearing, because this motor has gotten so powerful and so good that you need to throw away everything that you've been practicing for years on your previous motors and basically start again when it comes to your gearing and find out exactly how to make the most from your setup. So that's what this is. Now, when you take a look at these two motors, they appear to be relatively identical, except for one says G3 Spec R and one just says Gen 3. They're both 17.5 motors. They're both rebuildable. You can pull pretty much everything apart, but that's where it stops. Now, the case itself, the outside, that's the same, but inside is where all of voodoo is. They've retuned this thing. The armature, everything, the bearings, everything has been largely updated to make it so that it is absolutely a beautiful, wonderful work of art. And in speaking with Randy Pike, the team manager for Tekin, because I was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very hesitant to spend this much money on some new stuff unless I did my research first. So him and I spent some time discussing the changes until I was comfortable and obviously pulled the trigger. But basically, we went through and we talked about the idea that during the testing process, he left these things in cars, and people thought that he was using 13.5s when he was actually using 17.5s. So that's a big hats off to Tekin on that one to make that work well. So the Spec R systems that we're swapping out, 21.5, 6.5, and 17.5. The 17.5s will go into the World GT cars. And the 25.5s, but the 25.5 motors I have over here are not Spec Rs. They are just Gen 3s, but I had to replace some old motors, as well as the F1 class changed to a 25.5. So weight is a concern with on-road. That's largely what I'll be using these for, is on-road. And I kind of wanted to go through some of the history of the weight of these motors. So first, we're going to take an 8.5. I know it's not going to have as much winding, so just pretend it's a little heavier than this. Put that on there. You're looking at 6 ounces, 6.6 ounces for the original first generation Tekin motors. Okay, that's cool. Cars were also heavier back then. Most of them made out of plastic. Then we're going to go to a second generation 21.5. This bad boy here winds up being 6.3. So a Gen 2 system got a little bit lighter. Of course, this one is a 21.5, so it will have some more winding on it. But you're looking at 6.35 ounces for a Gen 2. Now we head into a Gen 3, and this one is a 17.5, so I'm going to be able to compare apples to apples on this one. This is 5.55 ounces. So 5.5, you can see that they've got some more milling out of the can, stuff like that. I know that this one here is the RPM motor, so this thing was meant to just scream and just wind out all the RPM. But then we'll get on to the new motor. So this one here is the new rebuilt, and this one is 5.3. So not only have they made this thing a screaming demon when it comes to all the technology that's inside of it, but they've actually managed to make it at least a little bit lighter. Which, I mean, I know that when we run these spec classes, they do have minimum weights that have to be on the car. But the minimum weight does not discuss where the weight has to be. So if you can shave the weight off of the stuff that doesn't necessarily move in your car, and then you can add the minimum weight that you require throughout different places on your car to get the optimal balance, yeah, why not? Plus, I mean, more weight off the motor could also mean less rotational mass, which could mean it speeds up quicker, it slows down quicker. AKA, it's all a way to make your life that much better when you're racing your remote control cars. And I got to tell you, Team Red has always been my thing. Red is my color, and this motor is beautiful. I absolutely love it. So one of these little bad boys here is going to be paired up to the RS Pro Black Edition. That one's going to go into Antler's car and just be an absolute menace on the track. And then, of course, he will also be installing the Hotwire 3.0 Bluetooth so that he can make changes on the fly without having to pull out the computer and get it all done. So good job on Tekin coming out with this technology. I absolutely love it. They're not the first in the industry to do it. I know that. I'm going to acknowledge that. But they finally brought it out for this stuff, which makes at least me a very happy boy. So my next step, of course, will be to get all my race cars all wired up. With my cars, it'll be Spec R motors, Gen 2 speed controllers, wire all these bad boys in. This 17.5 that will go into the World GT car does have to use a 1-cell booster because it is a 1-cell class, and my 25.5 will go into my team-associated RC10 F6 F1 car, which is dreamy. When was the last time you heard that word? All right, guys, so the wall of motors, you're going to start to see tons of pictures on the Scale Freak Instagram, at Scale Freak RC for the Instagram. You're going to see tons of this stuff going up on there because, I mean, the Tekin stuff is a work of art, and once we get into the cars, we're going to want to take a lot of pictures of it. And I hope that throughout the season, if this little bad boy creates that much of a difference for Antler, I'm going to have to get a couple of them for myself. As a bit of a word of note, I definitely can tell you that when you come to these classes like F1 and World GT, where they are spec classes, light cars, rear-wheel drive, sometimes the motor can be the difference. Last year at the Protoform Canadian On-Road Nationals, Steve raced his nuts off to get in. We all wound up in the same main at the end of the day. And if it wasn't for Steve getting wrapped up in a bunch of lap traffic at the beginning, he guaranteed would have beat me. His motor was so much faster than the one that I was using. So sometimes it does make the difference of getting the motor. So if you start with the best stuff, or you start with the stuff that you are most comfortable with, then you're going to have a great season. So check this stuff out. Go to your local hobby shop, ask for the Tekin Spec R or the Tekin Gen 3 spec systems, the RS Pro. I ordered this stuff all online, so go for it. Try it out. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments field below. Myself, as well as Steve, like to hang out down there and answer whatever questions we can. And if there's something that I don't have a direct answer for, then I will do my best to talk to Randy and see if I can get the answer for you. So guys, thank you very much for checking it out. Don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe if you want to see some future videos. Hit the little bell too, so it actually tells you there's a video coming. If you have any friends that could use any of the information in this video, just share it throughout your community and your networks. And of course, as I already said, comment below. Thanks for watching the video, guys.